Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. I got Terrence Oglesby with me, who finally is back to life after a long night out in Las Vegas, Nevada at Omnia. We saw Zed. We hung out with Zed. We're best friends with Zed now. I got John Fanta with me, who look, John, we have to have a real serious discussion here about something because I think you made one of the most egregious mistakes of your broadcasting career here. You are now known in the Twitter streets as Dunkin Johnny Fanta, and the fact that you are Dunkin Johnny Fanta and you did not find a way to get some kind of sponsorship deal with Dunkin, the brand that's right up there in the Northeast with you.
That's tough.
You made a mistake.
That is a mistake by me. And now we're going to the land of Dunkin, Boston, this week, where there's a Dunkin at every street corner. So yeah, it's a miss. It's a miss. I mean, here's the thing. Everyone's like, why didn't you wait? Why didn't you keep on holding out with the win?
You know what? Before we do that, there's a lot of people that probably don't realize what we're talking about. Just kind of explain what has happened over the course of the last 3 months, because it's been pretty funny.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't know what we're talking about, then this is mind-boggling in the most humble way that I can say this. Then you're not one of the 2.3 million people who have watched the video on Twitter, which I just have thoughts. Like, number one, I don't want to complain. Okay, I'm not a complainer. We've seen enough complaining. If this morning I read someone that was ripping people for being critical of the committee, please, can we just celebrate this greatness of our sport and not attack each other? Having said this, I immediately got a couple of texts from other SIDs, other sports info directors. These are the people who handle all the PR for coaches and players. And they're like, this windmill dunk. So here's what happened. Providence Twitter is crazy. The moment that they didn't make the NCAA tournament, they have jumped into just doing things that make them happy. Things that can get them excited. So there's two things that they've gotten going on. Number one is they saw a picture of Kim English wearing a vest. And so now they all want the vest. And they have made a hashtag just the vest. And they're tweeting at Steve Napolillo, and who is the Providence College athletic director. And Terrence, I could see your confused face from here. They basically tweeted so much PCBC that they now all have the capabilities of buying this vest, and it's going to NIL. Guys, they've probably bought collectively, I'm just going to say $40,000 or $50,000 worth of vests. That's how insane these people are. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. These people are so along those lines. I have been doing hits from this office for 2 years. We've lived here for a couple of years. And I've used this mini hoop to stand in front of when I'm doing a reaction to something. And 2.5, 3 months ago, someone said, can you please dunk the ball on that hoop? Well, at first, I was like, okay, one person becomes 5. 5 people become 15. 15 people become 30, asking for a hashtag Fanta windmill. Hashtag Fanta windmill. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just search this on X, because it was the number 10 trending topic, up to number 7 trending topic in the United States of America at 3:00 yesterday. All these people did it. They tweeted Fanta windmill all collectively yesterday, 250 in a row. I gave it a couple of hours, and then Dan Big Cat tweeted, I think that Fanta should just do this and stop holding out. Well, by then it's you know what? It's time.
Yeah.
I pick up the basketball and I put one shiny moment on and I slam a dunk home. And if you haven't seen it, it's on X. You don't have to subscribe or buy it. I could have put it behind a paywall. Someone said you should have pay-per-viewed this stuff. I did not. It's up there. And now everyone's like, you did it too soon. You should have held out.
No, it wasn't.
John Fanta, man of the people.
It took way too long to get that done. And you know what's going to happen? It's not going to stop. You're still going to get Fanta. Do a 360. I'm going to start that hashtag, Fanta360.
Now
Hey,
I'm
you know
going to be dunking weekly.
You know what? We do have some
It's a
breaking
great way to
news
keep it
here.
going in the off season.
Now I'm
We
be
do.
dunk. What's the breaking news?
That Fanta has a higher career dunk percentage than Terrence Oglesby does.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's true.
That is true. All right, before we get we're going to break down every single one of the games in the Sweet 16. We have 8 of them to get to. We're going to start in the South, but before I do, Tio, you got any overarching thoughts from the from the first weekend of the tournament? Anything that stood out to you more than anything else? We kind of beat it to death in Las Vegas, but is there anything now that you look back that basically I'm giving you the floor to talk about the ACC here because I know you wanted to talk about it.
I certainly do, Rob Doster. I certainly do. I have been beating the drum all year long. Damn Louisville, damn Georgia Tech, and damn Notre Dame got good at the end of the year, and nobody wanted to listen. Nobody wanted to listen. But here we are. 25% of the teams left are ACC teams. Only 5 got in. And quite frankly, guys, I wouldn't have put Virginia in. They were so bad over the past, 3 weeks? I would have kicked them out. I would have put Pitt in, and Pitt would have won some games. I guarantee you. Pitt would have won some games. So I don't want to hear it. I made this boldest of bold predictions. I want to say on November 1st, and I was demanded an apology from somebody on this panel. I was demanded an apology to America, and I didn't do it. You know why? Because I had faith that my pick was correct. And I didn't watch last night's show, John Fanta, and I assume you said the right thing by Jesus. Jesus approved of what you said last night about the ACC. I'm just guessing. However, this was a win for the ACC, who we've been saying the whole year, or I've been saying, that was just as good as what we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. ACC, 4 teams in the Sweet 16. That's all for me.
It's a huge win for the Atlantic Coast Conference. After the Virginia disaster in Dayton, the league enters this NCAA tournament first round, and people are wondering what's going to happen. And the biggest thing on my mind is you should never apologize for NCAA tournament victories. I'm seeing a lot of discourse over the weekend of, well, Duke beat Vermont and James Madison. Okay, at least half the country thought James Madison could make the Sweet 16. That was the vibe around that game, that would be a real game. Duke ran them off the floor. NC State, Oakland beat Kentucky. It's a one-game tournament. And NC State had to beat a good Texas Tech team, and they commanded them in that game. They commanded Texas Tech. They really contained Texas Tech's backcourt, headlined by Pop Isaacs. So for Kevin Keats, it's incredible. North Carolina, bit of a slow start against Michigan State. Love the way they punched back. I actually love the anger out of Hubert Davis in that in-game TV interview.
I did too. Yeah.
He's not tolerating complacency from his team. And that really impressed me. And then my biggest winner of the weekend is Brad Brownell. Brad Brownell and Clemson, early in the season, we talked about their group with the guard versatility, the guard options between Joe Girard. And then I just think Chase Hunter had a 2-point performance against Boston College in the ACC tournament. Flash forward to the last 2 games, he has combined for 41 points. So that's big time. And PJ Hall, we all know how good of a player he is. But you know what I thought about Clemson? We knew they were balanced offensively. They guarded Baylor at a high level. They stayed in front of Baylor, and they really made sure to make Baylor's life difficult in that first half, and it was enough for them to escape with the win. So for the ACC, it's a massive win. Jim Phillips should pop open a best bottle of his champagne because to be 8-1 and you're collecting, you're collecting, close to $27-28 million in units here over the weekend. Absolutely, the ACC is a big winner, but they weren't the only conference that was a big winner, Rob.
Yeah, the Big East was too. Going 6-0, getting 3 teams to the Sweet 16 is something that I think the league needed to do based off of the way that it was viewed by the selection committee. As kind of a Big East, look, I'll admit it, I'm a little bit of a Big East homer. I love Big East basketball. I'm not going to take any shame in that. It's what I grew up on. It's what I love. There's nothing better than the Big East tournament in March. And, I really like Shaka Smart. I really like Greg McDermott. Cam Jones is our fashion correspondent. So I'm happy to see 3 Big East teams in there. But I got to get a rant off my chest, guys. Okay. And it's touching on something that both of you guys said. It's not that impressive for NC State to get to the Sweet 16. Who'd they beat? Texas Tech and Oakland? Whatever. It's not that impressive for the Big East to get 3 teams into the Sweet 16. Who did UConn beat? Northwestern and Stetson? Who did Marquette beat? All they beat was Colorado?
I don't like that.
Like
Colorado's good.
Yeah, is there nothing that's impressive in this sport anymore? Like, can we not sell it? Like, if you're not beating the number 1 team in the country, are you not doing something impressive, right? Oh, Duke only beat Vermont and James Madison. James Madison had the most wins of anybody in college basketball this season, right? And we can't celebrate that. We can't say it's an accomplishment to get to the second weekend of the tournament. Like,
a full-blown butt whooping.
Yes,
like,
it just
they haven't been whooped like that all year.
There are 2 weeks left in the tournament. There are 16 teams that are still playing in the most important sporting event in this sport, right? Credit to some of the teams that are still playing in the NIT. Okay, like, yeah, congratulations. I'm glad you guys are winning, whatever. But like, if we can't celebrate teams making it to the Sweet 16, what is the point of doing this anymore? Like, why are we even in here? Here's what I'm refusing to do, and I'll let you go in 1 second. Here's what I'm refusing to do, right? I think rings culture, right? This idea that unless you've won NBA titles, you are not good at basketball. Like, I think that has been really, really bad for the way that we view the NBA and the discourse around the NBA, right? Like, all of a sudden, Kevin Durant is not one of the greatest players of all time because the only way he could get a ring was going and teaming up with the Warriors. Like, what are we even talking about here? The fact that we can't celebrate who LeBron James is and how good he's been as a player because he doesn't have as many titles as Michael Jordan. What are we even doing here? What is the point of playing if the only thing that we get to celebrate is cutting down nets? If you're still playing in the Sweet 16, you've had an unbelievable season. If we can't sit here and enjoy the fact that dancing DJ Burns, the man who is now a walking vending machine with ballerina feet, if we can't be like, look at this dude, and he's still playing in the tournament right now. Like, if we can't celebrate that, if we can't celebrate Duke making it to the Sweet 16 with a chance to be able to beat Houston, right? If we can't sit here and get excited about the fact that Houston had a walk-on in overtime, make a free throw to ice the game, what
Amazing.
are we doing, man? Congratulations. You beat Texas A&M. They made it to the Sweet 16. Why can't we celebrate this?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to get that out. I just had to get that out.
No, we should be. There's a lot of for whatever reason, it seems like there's some people who are covering this sport closely who don't want to be positive about it, who just want to talk about everything that needs to change within it. Are there some things that have to change with college basketball? Yeah, but none of them have to do with the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Think about that. There are some things that need to shift. We had Greg McDermott on After Dark last night, and he said, "Why aren't we being joyful for the kids that are making headlines and making the Sweet 16 and all the people that are in this tournament?" He goes, "Why am I opening up X? Why am I opening up social media platforms? And it's this kid is transferred, and this kid is transferred, and this kid is transferred every single minute of every single waking day in between these tournament games." He said that also puts some teams in the Sweet 16. Here's the deal, guys. Greg McDermott is not the coach at Duke or Carolina. So he was very candid last night on our show when he said it does put teams in the Sweet 16 at a disadvantage. You know why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Creighton's on a level. They're not a blue blood. Okay, they have resources. But his point was, I'm on the same playing field as a lot of teams who are no longer in the tournament, and those teams are able to focus on this every single second. Guess what I'm focused on? Beating Tennessee. So there are some things in our sport that have to change, but not in the NCAA tournament. And this opening weekend was a message, and those people know who they are. All right, I'm not going to name any names or bully anybody because people have done enough of that. But to the people out there, those especially involved in football, that want to change up this tournament, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this past weekend showed it in so many ways. I mean, you cannot tell me that it's just sheer coincidence that this past weekend, the Southeastern Conference, in many respects, flopped. They flopped after what we thought was a great year for that league. But Rob, to your point, we could say a league had a great year, a good year, a solid year, a bad year. We get into this tournament, and now it becomes you've got to do something extraordinary for it to be impressive versus if you get to a Sweet 16, that is impressive. My favorite thing that Brad Underwood has always said is the key to getting on an NCAA tournament run is to keep making the tournament.
Yep.
Brad Underwood didn't learn how to coach this past week. He's known how to coach for a long time. Now he's got his reward, and the first one's always the hardest to make. Illinois in the first Sweet 16 since 2005. And the Big East had a great weekend. To your point, 6-0 is 6-0. And to those who are like, well, Marquette should have beaten Colorado. Don't equate seed line to what you think of a team. Colorado was top 30 in KenPom, fellas. They're a good basketball team.
Really good.
Really good basketball team. And Tyler Kolek said, I'm putting this game away.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, one thing I was thinking about, like how to say this weekend. I was talking back and forth with Rob and Jeff about it. Like, there's been a lot of people complaining about the Mountain West getting 6 teams. The Mountain West deserved to have 6 teams based on their body of work. Now, where we get confused is who deserves it and who has the best teams. So, like, if the Mountain West, if we're talking about that probably some of the better teams were in some of these other conferences. I'm just going to be honest. I worked for the Mountain West, but they deserved it because anytime they needed a big win, they got a big win. So are we going on resume or are we going who the best teams are? Because that's where it gets hairy. Because if you look at it, college football playoff put in the best teams, so to say. They put in the best teams. Somebody got screwed, in my opinion, because another team deserved it. Now, in the NCAA tournament, they put teams in that deserve the bid as opposed to it being the best teams. I'm not against it. I thought, to be honest with you guys, if there weren't so many bids stolen, I thought Seton Hall should have been in. And then there's a case to be made for St. John's to be in. And, a little bit further down the line, maybe Providence. But like, it's like they're not putting the best teams in. They're putting the most deserving teams in. And that's where it gets confusing. That's where it gets confusing.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do. Get the best teams in and then get the most deserving.
You won't like that, Rob. Yeah, I'm telling you, you won't like
that. No, I said it wrong. Get the most deserving teams in and then seed it based off of who the best teams are. You know what I mean?
And I agree with that. And that's what the committee's obviously trying to do.
Yep. And I think that they look, I would have liked to see Seton Hall and St. John's in there. Providence is a little bit tougher just because of the injury to Bryce Hopkins. Like he gets a little bit more complicated there, but well,
that's the reason I said further down the line. Like, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like, after watching the success the Big East and the ACC had, it's like they're like, well, we don't take prior seasons into account. Like, why not? Because like obviously the ACC and the Big East are traditional basketball conferences that keep putting teams in the second weekend. So like in my opinion, like I wouldn't have put Virginia in. I'm still kind of a proponent of the last 10 games of the season. I know that's not a factor anymore. I feel like it needs to be because obvious ramifications where they score 11 points in the first half against Colorado State. Like, come on. Like, what do they shouldn't have been in the tournament. But
Colorado State scored 11 points in the first half against Texas after Virginia scored 14 points in the first half.
14. Sorry. Virginia's contagious.
Texas had like 18 points in the first half against Tennessee. So it was just like Tennessee is going to score 13 points in the first half against Creighton because Virginia is contagious.
Yeah, but if we did like the best teams, like I'm a firm believer Pitt should have been in. If we're doing best teams, if Pitt should have been in, they would have beaten several teams. Hold on 1 second, Fanta. Pitt should have been in. Then Wake could have been in. And then, to be honest with you, if the bottom 3 teams in the ACC weren't so bad,
that's why.
think like hold on 1 second, Fanta. That once
we're rehashing a dumb argument here.
Yeah, but Syracuse would have been in that play-in talk. So that's all I'm saying. Like there would have been all that stuff. It's all that. Are we doing the best teams? Or are we doing the most deserving? And we're doing the most deserving. So that's what it is. So it is what it is. And then as a result, the best teams and typically the best leagues, Big East, ACC, they continue to move forward.
Fanta, before you say anything, I'm just going to say this, okay? We all know that T.O. is getting on his high horse and saying some crazy things here.
I'm knocking the shit out of
this.
You
know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do, Fanta? I'm going to let him have his moment. My man's team is in the Sweet 16. Clemson is in the Sweet 16. The ACC is running roughshod over everybody. I'm letting my man have his moment.
The moment with those teams, we're now, but you want tournament expansion. You do.
I don't think it would be bad now. Because the goal is
okay. Now we've gone a step too far.
Don't.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. I've not talked in 5 minutes.
The NCAA, they want 25% of teams to make postseason. The Division I is growing so rapidly, you're going to have to anyway.
That's a different conversation for a different.
But that is the conversation.
Go ahead, Fanta. Go ahead.
That is a conversation.
Okay, so the conference that I mainly cover only got the 3 teams in.
Yeah.
I do not think they should have had 6 teams in. In fact, by the time Selection Sunday rolled around, I didn't even think they should have 5 in because of the bid stealers. I did believe that in a selection room, if I was looking from team to team to team, that Seton Hall, and you could put DePaul's name on Seton Hall. Actually, you can't do that. You can put Butler's name on Seton Hall. Doesn't matter that yes, I understand that I went there to school, but I cover the sport very logically. And if you look at their resume and understand that they beat Connecticut, who is now 39-3 over the last 42 games, and one of those 3 is on an off night against Seton Hall, and do not tell me it's because Klingon got hurt. Rob, you watched the game. They were down double digits when he got hurt. They might have come back with him, but it was not looking good. Okay? It was not looking good. But I am not for tournament.
They lost that game because 5 days earlier they were in Seattle. They were still on West Coast time.
Oh,
That's
please do not. That's a very sensitive subject. But Albert, a Kentucky fan, you're saying Seton Hall, Providence, St. John's all deserved it more than any ACC team that didn't make it. I don't agree with that. I do believe that Pittsburgh had a legitimate case for the NCAA tournament. Wake, in my opinion, Wake's couple of losses there late hurt them in a big way. They were on their way. They lost at home to Georgia Tech. That was a thing. We could talk all day about this, but the fact is we're down to 16 left, and we got to focus on that. But I don't believe in tournament expansion because the more you expand this tournament, the more you dilute your regular season.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, let's get into a preview of the Sweet 16. But first, I got to let you guys know that whether you're a world-class athlete like me and John Fanta, or if you are a podcaster like Terrence Oglesby, everybody understands the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season that was loaded with cross-country travel and late nights, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited to tell you, Terrence Oglesby, that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the DTF podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by the Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system, if it's a little bit too hard for you to say energy enhancement. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you got to listen up. Technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey with me or at one of the hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/field. That is UNIFYD healing.com/field. No material testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system. Let's go to the South Region. John Fanta, Houston, Duke, NC State, Marquette. We have 2 ACC teams. We have a Big East team, and we have the Houston Cougars. What are you looking for down here? I cannot wait, honestly, to see Houston and Duke. That is I think it's probably the most intriguing matchup for me in the Sweet 16, because you have the physicalness of this Houston team, you have the skill level of this Duke team, and you have the ACC against the Big 12 in the battle of the Titans.
Yes, I'm a little bit more intrigued by another game, which we'll reveal down the road, and I'll try to make the argument for it. But I am super intrigued by this Duke-Houston game. Why? Because I believe that the best thing that happened to Duke was losing in the ACC tournament quarterfinals. It was the first time since 2013 that Duke lost their first ACC tournament game. The time before they had that happen, John Shire was a freshman. And he said after the game, over the win over Vermont, in which Vermont played pretty disciplined. They just didn't make enough shots. And TJ Long got taken away in that game. Duke did a great job defensively. But I caught up with Shire in his back room, as he's getting ready to get on the bus and whatnot. And he just said, we had to have some very hard conversations about where we're at. And guys, I think we've all been talking about Shire here over these first 2 years about like him putting his stamp on things and this being Shire's team. I'll be honest with you. When I've watched Duke here for the majority of the last 2 years, I see John Shire walking the sidelines and I think he's filling in for a game. Like that's just where my brain wiring goes because we've become so accustomed to seeing Mike Krzyzewski. I thought this weekend, for the first time in the John Shire era on this sort of stage, because they got swept by Carolina, I thought his team played like him. They played like him. They were an extension of him. Jared McCain came out and knocked down shots. By the way, that backcourt right now is playing as well as any backcourt in college basketball. They have it. Tyrese Proctor. I know.
Hey, man. No, I'm not. I'm rolling my eyes because Jared McCain, when he gets hot, is just unbelievable. His first half against James Madison, it was like the quick release on the shots. Like he catches it right here and it's up before you can even he just, when he gets going, man, like I don't know how many players are more dangerous than Jared McCain when he's cooking left in the NCAA tournament. If there's any, it's like you're talking about like 2 or 3.
And I don't want to talk any longer than this, but I think I'll lead to UTO on this. Jeremy Roach, Tyrese Proctor, like now Roach is more fit to him, to what he should be on a team. And he's playing well. He's playing well. I know for a lot of people, for a lot of months and last couple of years, people are like, Jeremy Roach has to be Duke's best player. No, he doesn't. He just has to do his thing. Tyrese Proctor has to do his thing. They're not over-relying on any one piece. That's what I like about this team. Kyle Filipowski did not make a field goal against Vermont, and Duke won handily.
Yep.
And to me, T.O., I don't know about you. I know Houston is tough, but Duke is playing defense. Duke is top 25 in the country in defense.
Yeah.
And to me, Terrence, I think Duke, when you look at Houston, let's face it, they are very backcourt reliant on their scoring. But Mark Mitchell's playing very well. Kyle Filipowski can get going. Like, I don't know about you, but I like Duke offensively more than I like Houston offensively. Am I wrong?
No doubt. Yeah, I agree with that. And there were some big games had by Houston. And by the way, what a story for Houston to even get to that point with the walk-on coming in at the end of the game and knocking down 1 or 2 free throws. I thought that was really cool. But to go along with what John say, what John's done, John Shire has done over the past couple of years is, you're right, it is his team now. I think last year it was starting to get that way, and you like the way they played. They had rim protection. They were a little bit longer. This year, they're a little bit more offensively oriented, and that's okay, especially when you have a top 20 defense. That certainly helps.
Right.
There's a couple of things, and I agree with John whenever we say they're playing like Shire. They have guys on the floor that's an extension of him. I agree with that. I also I don't want to discredit what he was able to do last year and into this year, because whenever you have new players coming in, you have to adapt to your new players. Last year, it was a defensively dominant Duke as far as having Derek Lively come in, play really well late. This year, it's more offensively oriented. Get out in transition, find Jared McCain on the wing, and let that man cook. It's just a matter of him being able to adapt, and it really is John Shire's team now. Like, I'm not going to say K is a distant memory, but he's now a memory in the same vein as Roy Williams is now a memory, because Hubert's done a nice job over there too. It's John Shire's team, and we don't see. We've been talking about Greg Campy the whole time about him being there for 40 years at Oakland, and what a great story that is. This, that, and a third. There's not going to be many more 40-year coaches. Go ahead and get used to John Shire, because he might be the next and only one I can think about, because he's going to be good for a long time, and he's going to be there, and he's going to continually adapt. That's the thing that is so intriguing about watching Duke play and the development over 2 years, because he's adapted throughout the course of the season.
Mm-hmm. I think the really interesting part about this, and I agree with everything you guys both just said. I think a really interesting part about this matchup between Houston and Duke is like the thing that we could knock Duke on all year was can they handle a certain level of physicality? Can they handle a certain level of if things go wrong for them during a game, right? And I don't know if we necessarily saw that much during the regular season. And honestly, like I don't know if we've necessarily seen that yet from them in the tournament setting. But they are here in the Sweet 16, and now they have a chance to prove themselves. Are you worried about the toughness and the physicality that they're going to have to deal with going up against Houston TO? You're muted. TO is muted.
What was the question?
What was the question? Say the question again.
The toughness and physicality of Houston.
That's just, I mean, it's certainly a concern. The thing with Duke is it's like there's so much individual offensive talent. Like Jeremy Roach, if this was years ago and he didn't have injuries, like he's a point guard. Like those guys have fallen out of favor in the NBA, but that dude can create a look. McCain can create a look. Like they have so many guys that can do it on their own. Filipowski's a nightmare to game plan for because he's so good offensively. I have Duke going to the Final Four. I think they beat Houston because they just have enough offensively in order to get to 65 points to where in the half court can Houston. Yeah, they can, but will they? I think that's kind of I don't know. This is a tough one, but I think great offense beats great defense every time.
Well, yeah, but Houston.
That's me though.
Right. But yeah. Houston did score 95 or 100 in their last game.
Yeah,
I mean,
but will they go 2 overtimes?
Sharp's playing great.
Yeah, he is.
He's playing terrific. And we know Cryer. I just think for me, the question that I would have is Houston in the front court. You know, will they win that matchup over Mitchell and Filipowski? I mean, can they do it? Can Francis be able to hold his own and lock them down? And maybe they will. But I got Rob, the hot team. It doesn't help
that Robert says that it's the bone bruise, right? That he's dealing with, or shin bruise, whatever. He's got some kind of he's definitely not 100% at this point, which is not what you want going up against Kyle Filipowski.
Rob, the hot team here is Duke.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But are you buying them enough to say that they win?
I think that I would not be shocked if they won. I think Houston will be like a 3-point favorite. And if you're going to give me 3 points in Duke, I think I probably want to be on the Duke side at this point. How about NC State Marquette, guys? I think that this is where the run ends for NC State. As much as I love DJ Burns, as much as I love that front court, I just have a very difficult time seeing them be able to deal with how spread out and how talented Marquette is offensively. I think this is a really, really tough matchup for them. But if you're an 11 seed that 2 weeks ago was not even in the NCAA tournament picture, and now you're playing in the Sweet 16, like you're playing with house money. You're playing with vending machine money. DJ Barnes on vending machines. You got to love it.
Yeah. Guys, as much as I love the front court of this NC State team, obviously DJ Burns, walking refrigerator with ballerina feet, aka walking vending machine with ballerina feet. You know he owns vending machines. Fanta, did you see this?
I saw quality.
That. There's nothing more perfect. There's nothing more perfect. And what an investment vending machines are. If you have time to go fill them up, not terrible. Just throwing that out there. Here's my thing. I love the front court. I feel like some of those guys, like Ben Middlebrooks, came in that first round, played great. And I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think Danny Cannell's not going to like this, but I didn't think Ben Middlebrooks could score 21 points by himself in the gym. And yet here he was, had a great game off the bench. I mean, as good as you could really ask for. That's kind of what you need in the tournament. You need somebody unprecedented to step up. And buddy, did he ever. And I'm having what Muhammad Diarra has been the underrated piece of this whole thing. The dude boards, he defends at an incredibly high level. And you don't think Mizzou could have used that guy? They certainly could have. Marquette's a different beast. And they have so many guards and so many ways to attack you with speed. You're almost looking at what a really good 1990s basketball team would be against a 2020s basketball team is. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be an interesting thing, but I think Marquette offensively, they space you out. They do so many things. It's going to be a really tough draw for NC State, especially if you're playing 2s against 3s. And some of those 3s are going to be wide open for Marquette.
Yeah, that's where I tend to fall on this matchup. Fanta, real quick, can Marquette get to a Final Four? Can Marquette beat the winner if, assuming they get past NC State? Do you think that Marquette can beat the winner of Houston Duke?
If the winner's Duke, I would feel as though Marquette would have a decent, good chance. If the winner is Houston, I worry about Marquette against the physicality and toughness level that Houston presents in a game. And I would be a little bit concerned about Kolek and Jones getting into trouble finding space to get clean looks off. Marquette they are a team that dances offensively. It's like a dance. They move so well. Kolek is such a good passer. Some of his passes, Paul, I did not say that Duke is soft. We have a listener. I don't think that Duke is soft. I don't think that Duke is soft. I think that Duke is a very good team. And I think that they can really score the ball well. And I do think they guard. When you are playing Houston, it is an absolute root canal colonoscopy at the same time. It's not fun.
That sounds painful.
Getting a root canal and a colonoscopy at the same time.
I mean, so what that means, what that says is you're getting it from both ends. Is that what that means?
Terrence, please.
You said it, not me.
No, you said that.
No, you said you're going to get it on offense and defense. I don't know where your mind's at, but I'm thinking hoops.
I don't know that. I'm not going to say anything else.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe you know that feeling. I do not.
Oh, man.
All right, Marquette can make a Final Four.
Hold on.
To me, Marquette can beat. They could beat Duke. I don't think they could beat Houston. But you're asking, can they get to a Final Four? Here's the deal: when you get to a Sweet 16, you can get to a Final Four. You can. When you get this far out, you can. By the second week, that's why everybody's celebrating. That's why everybody's celebrating when you see these locker room scenes. Even the great teams, getting to a Sweet 16 is freaking hard. We start with 362 teams. You're one of 16 left standing. So
Right.
Marquette can. You know why Marquette can, Rob? Their point guard on any given day can be the best point guard in the country. And a lot of people said this over the weekend. A lot of guys come back from injury and they show rust. But
He did for the first half, I thought. I thought it took him a half to get going.
He did against Western Kentucky. And then
For the first half of the first game. That's kind of what I'm alluding
Well,
to.
he had
It didn't take long, though. My God. He's unbelievable. No, you're right, though, John. You have to play both ends of the floor to reach the Final Four.
All right, let's head to the Midwest. Purdue, Gonzaga, Creighton, Tennessee. Jeff Goodman on Sunday night said Gonzaga had, quote, no chance. No chance to beat Purdue. No chance.
that's
I feel
not
like
right, man. That's wrong.
No chance. No chance.
I actually love the way Gonzaga's playing right now. I mean, Mark Few doesn't get anywhere near enough credit for going to 9 straight Sweet
That's
16.
unbelievable.
Straight.
That is
9
unbelievable. That really is a remarkable accomplishment.
You know what you got to do to get to 9 straight
Oof.
Sweet 16s? Play both ends of the floor. Play both ends.
Yeah, they do. They do. And they wore Kansas down. What they did against Kansas was one of the more impressive opening weekend performances in the tournament. What's going right for Gonzaga? Well, Ryan Nembhard sets up his teammates for success. I saw people talk about this over the weekend. Some folks that had coached him in the AAU ranks were tweeting when you have Ryan Nembhard on your team, you're going to win. There's a reason why Creighton was within a possession of a Final Four last year. And let's face it, things have come a bit harder for Creighton this year. It's because Ryan Nembhard's not on their team. Ryan Nembhard is phenomenal at setting up Nolan Hickman and Anton Watson. I thought Watson was great, by the way, against Kansas. He's a matchup problem, guys. He can space the floor. He can take you off the dribble. But Graham Ike gave them something good. And then I kind of like what they're getting from some other sources. I mean, on Saturday, Braden Huff created problems. Braden Huff will be an X factor to this game. Do you know why? They can run him on pick and rolls, pick and pops.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make Edey mobile coming out on you. Not mobile getting. A lot of people are mistaking this. They're like, well, if you say Edey's not great in pick and roll, you're not watching him play. He is. He's a quality pick and roll defender. He's able to manage all that.
What people don't understand, this gets me really fired up, is
Ridiculous.
that when you're in drop coverage and you're the big guy and you're the center, right? And T.O., if I say anything wrong here, please correct me. But half of the time, the defense works when the point guard can't get a shot off, right? And it's not going to pop up in the box score. And there's not, like, people want to see how many block shots you can get, how many rebounds you can get, shooting percentages. Like, a lot of times when you come off that ball screen,
hold on. If the point guard just doesn't get a shot, period.
Yeah, like what happens is the point guard comes off the ball screen and he's looking for something in the mid range, and you take that away, and then the other point guard the defensive point guard gets back to help, and the ball gets kicked out. Like, that means the drop coverage was a success. There's no turnovers, there's no missed shots, there's no block shots, right? But if you don't get anything out of that ball screen and they're forced to do something else, that means the defense worked. If the point guard comes off of a ball screen and does the whole like underneath thing, yeah, but people. When that happens with Purdue, no one is sitting there saying, "Oh wow, Zach Edey did a good job defensively there," right? And you don't get credit for that, and it frustrates me when it's very hard to talk about what is happening. It's hard to give credit for something that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, Edey doesn't, and it happens with Kling, and it happens with Calcraft, it happens with a lot of big guys. You don't get credit for the job you do defensively when a shot is not taken. When you're in the right spot and they're not able to get that look, because we celebrate like, okay, he's got 9 blocks in this game. I don't know. It frustrates me when people don't see that. Like, that's part of what makes him good defensively, is you're not able to get those looks in those situations.
Yeah. Well, the reason that you play drop coverage is because you're willing to, if there's one shot you're willing to give up, it's an off the bounce 15-footer. And then you have a rear view contest with the guard coming behind. The thing is Edey's so damn big that, like, even when he's dropping, like, he can cover the roller and the guy that's coming off the ball screen, because he's so big that he can discourage the shot, and he makes that roll pass so difficult, because not only does Edey able to cover the shot, but he's moving his feet quick enough to get back just in case they do throw it. So, like, no, you're right. I mean, that ball continues to move. Everything inside of 10 feet when you play Purdue is shut down. Everything. And he has only gotten better at it. There were a couple times, guys, they played their last game and they were switching. And as a result, like, just because there's so many games and my brain's a fog right now, they were playing Utah State, and Utah State has some guys in Ian Martinez and Darius Brown that, against other teams, they have their way as far as creating a mismatch and going and scoring. I think Edey gave up 1 foul on a drive to Ian Martinez. 1. And, like, the fact that he's 7'4" and moving like that, I understand it's a weak draft, but there's a 7'4" guy talking about being picked in the top 20.
Right.
And he's moving well enough for that to be valid and warranted. And I'm a little bit shocked about it. And he's been awesome.
One sentence on this. I'm getting off of this right now. I understand that there are a lot of takes that are saying that this draft class is weak, and understandably so, comma. But I am not going to let us, for the next 3.5 months, rip apart this class, because at the end of the day, you have to remember that there's kids' dreams coming true. So, like, I think that's going to be a big topic, and I hope that we don't just beat that to death. That's my take.
Well, the reason I say that is there's no Wembanyama. There's a lot of quality. There's a lot of quality NBA players in the draft. There's just not one that's going to average 25 points a game. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's weak that there's not NBA players in there, because there are. There's just no LeBron. There's no, like, that's kind of what people are insinuating. Whenever people talk about a draft class, they're talking about the top 5 picks, guys. Yeah.
Because everything else is just drafting for a piece anyway. If you're not going to get if you're not getting your Kevin Durant, if you're not getting your Nikola Jokic, you're drafting for a piece. All right, let's hit on Creighton, Tennessee real quick because we haven't talked about that much. How does Creighton slow down Dalton Connect, T.O.? How do you stop him? What do you do?
You load up and make everything contested and hope he has a bad day. I think that's kind of, you have to be overly physical on the drive, make him off balance as possible, but he's still really good. Guys, these games are running together. We watched so much in the Mandalay Bay that was a little dark, and I was having a hard time. What was who'd they play again?
Texas.
They played Texas. So what Texas did was they got up underneath him and they forced him baseline and they threw a guy at him quick. And you have to have athletes to contest some of his shots because he's going to get them off. He's listed at 6'6". I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the combine measured and he just happened to be a little bit taller than that. Like he's he has such a high release point too that he's hard to defend. You hope you can throw length at him. You hope that you can have some of those things. Ryan Kalkbrenner changes the game for them. That's where I'm more positive than anything because I think Trey Alexander is athletic enough to stay in front. He's physical enough and he plays with an edge enough to where he's going to be able to compete. He can't get in foul trouble though, because after that, I'm not sure who you throw at him.
No one, Creighton does not ever get. They don't know how to foul. They don't know how to foul.
So but
they don't foul.
It's still a thing. They don't foul, but they have an athlete in Trey Alexander that can stay on him, and then you have that help behind him. That's just like Adu's going to have a big game to keep Kalkbrenner honest, but Trey Alexander needs to be great defensively. Defensively, and he can be. He can be.
I think this is going to be a grinded out affair. Fanta. I think it's going to be a low-scoring battle. I think that it's going to be one of those ones where it kind of comes down to, if you get 30 from Dalton Connect or if Baylor Shireman and Trey Alexander are kind of lighting you up. Trey's ability to get to his spot and hit that tough little 12-foot fadeaway is just so good, man. Like my biggest concern with them this year was whether or not they had someone that could kind of break you down at the end of a clock. And they don't really have someone that can break you down and get to the rim at the end of the clock. But they do have a guy that can get to where he wants to get to and hit a little 12-foot fadeaway. And that might not be the most efficient shot in America, but it works for Trey Alexander.
And they have players who, if they can't break you down necessarily, they can pass it. So at the end of the shot clock in overtime on Saturday night against Oregon, by the way, I want to give a hat tip to Dana Altman. I thought he did a brilliant job with his team down the stretch this season. They're going to move to the Big Ten. They are going to be a dangerous program in the Big Ten. Oregon, I was really impressed with. Jermaine Cuisinart was absolutely electrifying to watch this past weekend, as was N'Faly Dante. As for Creighton, they when a lot of this reminds me of Jay Wright, great Jay Wright teams. When the shot clock winds down, okay, they seem to relish in it rather than get frazzled. Creighton is like that. Creighton is okay with the shot clock winding down when a defense gets a little bit in scramble mode. Now, you're going to have to be disciplined here. You certainly can't turn the ball over. It's interesting. Tennessee's coming off a game in which Dalton Connect, Zakai Ziegler, and Jonas Adu combined to shoot 11 for 42 from the floor. 11 for 42. And they won. They should have beaten Texas by 15. They just had a really poor shooting performance. I mean, horrendous. 3 of 25 from 3, and they started 1 for 22 in that game. Creighton, conversely, Trey Alexander goes 7 for 21. They started 1 of 11 from 3, and they found a way to win. So now you have two teams that are coming off far from their best that are going to meet. Is it a tightness? I sometimes worry about Tennessee because it just seems like Rick Barnes' teams get to this tournament and they just don't play to the level that they're fully capable of. You got to shed that here. You've got an All-American in Dalton Connect. This is it right here. You got a golden opportunity to get to a Final Four. But by the same token, Creighton's got unfinished business. They believe they should have been in a Final Four last year. This comes down to, for me, the point guard position. Stephen Ashworth, when he's on, it changes everything. He took a lot of shots on Saturday night, but guys, he made some cold-blooded threes in that game. And if at some point you got to pick your poison with Creighton. When Alexander and Shireman are backing you in, you're going to leave somebody open. Ashworth, Oregon was willing to let him shoot, and guess what? he made them pay enough. But I couldn't agree with you more. Finally, like Ryan Kalkbrenner, this is the most. Everybody's talking about Caleb Love, okay, and the Caleb Love Bowl, and rightly so. And we'll get to it. But to me, what would excite me as a basketball fan and a fan of centers
I know where you're going.
Is if Ryan Kalkbrenner meets Zach Edey, because Kalkbrenner does not foul.
Yes, that will be a fantastic matchup, and it's one that I've kind of circled for this Sweet 16. All right.
By the way, one quick thing: underrated defender Jonas Adu for Tennessee is terrific as well. So two of the elite 5-man defensive players in college basketball in that game. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
That's going to be a great game.
It really will be.
Can't wait. It's going to be the game of the weekend.
By now, you guys have surely heard about an Autograph, an app founded by Tom Brady with the intention of disrupting the way that fans consume content covering their teams. Here's how it works. All the podcasters, bloggers, and digital creators covering a team have their content sent to that team's page in Autograph. Instead of having to bounce from site to site, trying to navigate the safer workspaces that are left on X, there aren't many of them. You just scroll through Autograph. I'm telling you, this isn't a hard sell. This is the truth. I am a UConn fan, and I use the Autograph app to keep up with the writers I read and the pods that I listen to. The best part is that every piece of content you consume gives you reward points. The more you get, the more chances you have at things like discounted tickets to games or something they're raffling off today, which is autographed basketballs for teams that are left in the Sweet 16. The best part, we've partnered with Autograph to donate $1 to the V Foundation every time someone downloads the app using the code F68 with a minimum of $2,500 getting donated. I believe that is happening this week. The first $2,500, and it will be in honor of a former teammate of mine, John Swartz, that passed away from cancer about 12 years ago. So the app is free. Download using the code F68 and help us raise some money and give Autograph a try. And while we're here, let me just tell you about our newest partner in the month of March, Splash Sports, the home of certified community competition where you get to play against your friends and not the house. Whatever the game is, whether it's Survivor or Pick X or Tiers, the safest way to play for real money without the hassle of having to track down deposits or worry about payouts is through Splash. They've partnered with PaySafe, the best deposit and payment system in the world, to ensure that the money stays safe and is delivered to the right places on time. Gentlemen, let's go to the West. North Carolina, T.O. Hold on, Fanta. What do you got?
Just, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but Illinois just released a statement saying, please note, as Illinois continues in the NCAA tournament, be advised that Terrence Shannon Jr. will remain unavailable to the media pursuant to the advice of his legal counsel. I do believe that this will be. I'm not at all, going to sit here and argue about what legal counsel is suggesting. However, I know that in circles around this now, there's going to be a lot of discussion about this in Boston because you're going to have a lot of national media here surrounding Illinois, and it's going to be a different level of press. So, Rob, as we are heading to Boston, I don't remember the last time I ever saw this where a team's best player just isn't able to speak to anybody, not even television.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's going to be an awkward situation. It's going to be a tough one to navigate, and I'm honestly surprised that it has not been a bigger story so far this season. Right, like I figured that once he came back, it was going to be something that dominated headlines. And now that he is back and he's playing great and he's playing at an All-American level, I feel like it doesn't really get talked about at all. So I'm going to be very curious to see. You know what? Well, let's stick in the East region because we're kind of talking about it there. I feel like it's going to be something that is talked about quite a bit because this is going to be the chance for a lot of the media members that will be following UConn's back-to-back title run and attempt are going to be in the same arena as him. But I also wonder if I don't know if you can't really ask his teammates about it. Like, what are you going to ask them? And if you ask Brad Underwood,
teammates.
Yeah, Brad Underwood's going to give you like the whatever answer has been approved by legal counsel at the University of Illinois. So you're not going to get anything out of him. And we can sit here and we can talk about it and mention it and bring it up, and it's going to be the exact same thing over and over again. So, Blake Widmer just mentioned Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller did speak to the media. He spoke to the media at the Sweet 16. He spoke to the media. Yeah, he spoke to the media.
I mean, we haven't seen a player get held off from press, like could not talk to anyone since Patrick Ewing, as a freshman at Georgetown. They would not let him talk. He didn't do any interviews, which is crazy. But it was the 1980s, and it was John Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever remember a player of this stature not being able to talk to anybody. I mean, CBS isn't even able to talk to him. That is insane.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
what if they make the Final Four? That's crazy, man. You know, couldn't you tell TV, like, hey, like, please no questions? Tracy Wolfson's not going to be hunting down a question on that. You're talking basketball. I don't know. I just think, you're exactly right, Rob.
There could be there could be legal ramifications for him getting irritated with a question and him saying, like, I don't know what happened. Like, so I just, this is a weird one. I actually think it's a smart thing for the attorney to be like, hey, dude, just
it is a smart thing for the attorney. Yeah, it is. I'm just saying
it's a smart thing for the long term of the kid.
Yeah, you can't.
So who's going to win? Who's going to win this game?
Yeah. You can't put him in a situation where he's talking on in front of a live television audience because you can't do it if you're the attorney. And I understand why it would be frustrating as fans and as media members and as people from the other side. All right. I think, look, the way that we talked about this, T.O., in Vegas, I kind of regret how that conversation went because since I was there and since Trevor was there, a lot of it was, ooh, can UConn end up playing Illinois? How crazy would that be if our producer and one of the guys on the show are both there because they're fans of these two teams? And like we overlooked just how good Iowa State is. And I think Iowa State has a very real chance of winning this game because of what they are defensively, right? And I understand that they may not have the athleticism to deal with someone like a Terrence Shannon, but they got a bunch of really good individual defenders. And I think they have a chance to be able to win this thing. Like, I don't think that it's crazy to think that they can beat Illinois.
Yeah, here's my thing. I almost feel like if there's a team to beat them, it is a team that's going to win it in isolation. Because whenever you play Iowa State, they're tough on the ball, sure, but it's because they know what you're running better than you know what you're running. And Otzelberger has done a terrific job defensively this year with Iowa State. Terrific job, and they have enough shot making. I really do think they have enough shot making. That being said, with Illinois, you're not in rotation because you're just basically going to be there stagnant. And the fact of the matter is you have to guard the guy in front of you. And unless you're going to get yourself out of position by throwing another person at the ball, which I don't see Iowa State doing, it's a tough one to for Iowa State to really hunker down and scout, if that makes sense. And whoever said that we've overlooked the Big 12 on this show, no, we haven't. Be quiet. The thing is I just don't see how that. They're going to be great on the ball. It's a matter of this is how you beat Iowa State, by having great individual talent. That's kind of my hang up.
Well, that's true. But even then, it's still hard to beat Iowa State. I mean, this is going to be a really good game. This is my favorite game in the Sweet 16. You know,
really?
Because you combine the best analytical offense
since January 1. So you're right. So since January 1, the best offense in college basketball at Illinois, the best defense in basketball.
Not just since January 1, overall in KenPom. I mean, Illinois is number one in offense.
That must have just been,
That's a dated stat, Tio. You need to check your facts.
Yeah,
okay, we need to get you.
I need to get.
So not only is Illinois the number one offense on KenPom and Iowa State's the number one defense on KenPom, they are currently the number one offense and number one defense on Tyler Palm as well.
Right, on Tyler Hansborough's metric, which is just there's not really there's as much of a formula behind Typom as there is with the selection committee. Boom, roasted.
There's more thought put into Typom.
Because it's like, you know, there's more of a consensus with Typom in that it's literally him making.
That's a good point.
So here's my thing. Like the argument is great offense beats great defense. Okay. But Iowa State does not get enough credit for how they manage the game offensively as well. They still have a top 50 unit. Okay. It's not a top 15, top 20 unit. It's not an explosive offensive unit. But you know what Iowa State does terrifically, guys, that can frazzle Illinois? They don't turn the ball over. Iowa State does not turn the ball over. Taman Lipsey and Keyshawn Gilbert, and when Trey King emerges as an X factor, and our guy Milan Momcilovic is doing great things for this team, like they have a group of individuals that have played complementary basketball all season long and just fight you tooth and nail when they're on defense. You are exactly right. If there is a formula to beat Iowa State, Illinois has that formula. Because as you just said, individual playmakers are what's needed to get past that defense.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, those individuals got to show up as well. And sometimes they get frazzled too. And Iowa State, they've seen every form of bucket getter in the Big 12. They're ready for this game. Toughness is going to win this game. And that's why I'm going to keep what my bracket was initially. I have 7 of my Elite 8 alive. Iowa State will win this game. I've got the Cyclones to just grind it out, to not turn the ball over. Lipsey and Gilbert do enough.
I don't hate it. I think it's going to be close. My guess is that it'll probably be like a close to a pick'em game. I tend to think that the talent on Illinois is going to be a little bit too much for Iowa State to deal with, but I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. I think Iowa State is very, very good. They remind me a little bit of those Texas Tech teams in the Chris Beard era. And I just want to can I just make a point real quick? I can't remember who it was. I saw someone pop up, and they were saying that Tyler Hansbrough, it was Sean. He said Tyler Hansbrough called Illinois a fringe tournament team. Okay, let's be very clear about this. It was the first game after Terrence Shannon was not available, and Tyler Hansbrough said Illinois looks to me like a fringe tournament team without Terrence Shannon, which, let's be honest, was not the craziest take in the world, considering that they were missing a first-team All-American at the time, right? Let's just get that out of here. He did not say – the people are acting like last week he said Illinois was a fringe tournament team. No. He said it the day after Terrence Shannon was gone, when nobody thought that Terrence Shannon was going to be back. Okay. Sorry. I just had to get that ran off my chest. I will just say real quick, I have a UConn San Diego State preview pod coming out on the Top Dogs podcast with myself and a guy that was on San Diego State's coaching staff last season named JD Pollock, who is now in the media space. So I'll go at length on that one if you want a preview of it tomorrow. I will just say really quick, I do think that is a tough matchup for UConn, a tougher one than people realize. All right, real quick, I just want to make sure that we hit on the West region as well. North Carolina, Alabama, Clemson, Arizona. T.O., you said this on Sunday night. You don't hate the matchup with Arizona for Clemson.
If you look at it man for man, I do think – Huh?
I don't hate it either. I think that if you were going to talk to me about like a 1 or a 2 seed that Clemson would want to draw, I think Arizona is the one that you want to get.
And I agree with that. That's kind of where I'm at. Jack Clark getting healthy, is he a huge piece of their offense? Not necessarily, but he's a good big-bodied piece that you can play on the perimeter. And then you match up the fours, Keyshawn Johnson and Ian Shefflin. Ian Shefflin is your favorite coach's favorite player, because all those coaches will text me and be like, damn it, that guy's good. And all he does is just winning stuff. PJ against Omar Ballo. Can PJ stay out of foul trouble, for the love of God? For the love of God, PJ, stay out of foul trouble. Because some of these fouls, they need you in the game, pal. Yeah, you can't have those 2 knucklehead fouls against Arizona, because once you get past PJ, Omar Ballo, that dude is a monster. So you're going to have to pull him away from the basket if you're going to have success. That's tough. Guard matchup, I'm fine with Chase Hunter, Caleb Love, Joe Girard, Kylan Boswell. I'm okay man-to-man, and I actually think Clemson's not quite as talented. I do think they're a little deeper. So I'm curious to see. This is going to be a hell of a game. It's going to be a much closer game than I think people realize, because I do think Clemson's that good, and I think they can keep up with both teams being healthy, which is, hey, guys, that's a win in its own right. Your entire team being healthy at this point of the year.
Mm-hmm. Fanta?
Well, it'd certainly be a win for Carolina if it's not Arizona and if it's Clemson.
They split in the regular season.
Sure they did. I still would rather – I don't want to play Caleb Love because I believe that
Tio, all due respect, Tio, it would be a
didn't.
loss for the United States of America if we don't get
be.
Caleb Love versus North Carolina. Like, I love you, man. You're one of my favorite people in this business. I want all the good things in the world to happen to you and for you. I love your love for the Clemson Tigers. I'm just so thrilled that the last 3 years we've been able to come such close friends. I love doing this DTF podcast, and I want nothing more than your Clemson Tigers to lose. And like it has nothing to do with me hating Clemson. I hope if there's a Clemson player listening to this, there's no shade. I want to root for you guys. Like, there's nothing more than I want to see them be able to make a run. But I want that Caleb Love, North Carolina vengeance play in the Elite Eight. Like, that would be the narratives, the storylines, the drama. It would be messy in all the perfect ways. Sorry, Fanta, I just had to say that.
It'd be a financial loss for the television partner if Clemson beats Arizona and it's not Arizona and Carolina on Easter Sunday. Or that game would be Saturday night, right? That would be Saturday night.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Clemson has veterans, all right? They've got experienced dudes on that roster. They also play very complimentary basketball. I'm just so impressed with Joe Girard and Chase Hunter. And you said it, Clark doesn't mean everything, but he means a good amount when you look at their team. Because outside of that, he's basically playing 7 guys with Godfrey and Wiggins coming off the bench. Yep. And it's not like those guys are scoring a ton. But that's okay. The key for Clemson is you cannot let Arizona get downhill. I heard Mick Cronin say this on the Herd yesterday. He did a 25-minute segment. It was one of the more refreshing segments I've heard a coach do because Cronin does not give a damn what anybody thinks. And he just said, you know what? He goes, to beat Arizona, you have to, first off, make some shots. Oh, Clemson can do that. Second off, you got to stick them in the half court. He said, as a game wears on with Arizona, if you stick them enough in the half court, they can get a little bit in their heads and can go into a drought. Now, it's interesting because if you watched Arizona on Saturday, you saw Caleb Love only make 1 shot in the second half. Kylan Boswell was a non-factor. It was huge that Jaden Bradley stepped up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily an every game thing, though. Like, at the end of the day, we said for Arizona to reach a Final Four, Kai Boswell's got to play to his potential. Kai Boswell, you had an off game. In this tournament, you can't have multiple off games. So this is the key for me. Which version of Boswell shows up? Because, Terrence, if Kylan Boswell's still not in the right place, Clemson can absolutely win this basketball game.
Yeah, and let me say this about you talked about the balance between Iowa State and their offense and their defense. Look at what Clemson did defensively against Baylor.
Similar makeup. Yes.
Yeah. So not only and Clemson's defense hasn't been what it has been in the past. It's because their offense has been so much better, and sometimes they'll take them a little bit quicker in the shot clock than what has typically become accustomed to under a Brownell coach team. But they defensively, they can slow the pace, and offensively, it's hard to string together 6 to 8 to 10 point runs.
Yes.
Because you score a bucket, then you have to guard for 30. So it's hard. Go ahead.
This is a great point by you. Because I was just thinking this in my head. You know what we have a lot in this Sweet 16? Kill shot teams versus possession-by-possession teams.
Bingo.
Like Creighton, Iowa State, and Clemson are all in the second weekend because of the way that they take it possession-by-possession.
Honestly, that's UConn too. Like, people associate UConn with more of a team that makes these big runs, but when they make big runs, it's like, okay, they have the ball for 25 seconds and score, then you don't score, then they do the same thing again, then you don't score, then they hit another 3, then you don't score. Like, their 12-0 runs take like 2.5 minutes to go through. They are, I think they're like 340th in tempo this year.
And that's why they're the best team in college basketball, because they could go on a kill shot but make it long.
They are absolutely they're
a
serial.
by submission team.
They are serial killers. They are Dexter. That is what they are.
Yep.
North Carolina, Alabama will be the highest scoring game in this tournament. You want to add anything on that? Well, let me ask you this. If you're North Carolina and you're a team that's kind of known for being an up and down team, do you try to run with Alabama or do you try to slow this thing down to you?
North Carolina is just better. You just take whatever's given. If it's open to push, you push. If it's not, you slow it down and you run some offense. They're just better. I thought that was so funny. I thought Alabama Grand Canyon was going to be this 100 to 105 point game. Boy, what a disaster that one was.
That was a rough watch. You know what? It was a rough watch, but it was incredibly entertaining in how horrible it was.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
You know what? I think you still got too much of the coach in you. We got to get you a little bit more of the you're in 2 years. If this was 2 years from now, you would have enjoyed it a little bit more for the insanity.
Yeah, it was insane. It was insane. It was just so much. I like insanity where like there's at least some reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was none. No, it's going to be a fun game. Alabama defensively, it's going to be tough. Hubert Davis has done a great job this year. Great job. And they're different. They push when it's available, but they can play in the half court. Very, very good. I think North Carolina wins this one. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's, 10, 12 points.
Hey, did you guys see the interview that Nate Oates did after beating Grand Canyon? He did. I think it was in the middle of the game when he does the interview. And then after the interview, he looks straight at the camera and is just like,
I sent it to the Field of 68.
Is that what it was? Is that who said that was?
Yeah.
That was so funny.
It's just so uncomfortable.
Nate, what are you doing, man? Yeah, so I think that one is going to be one of the most aesthetically pleasing games to see, but I think North Carolina can handle Alabama pretty easily. All right, there's one more thing I want to get to before we do. I just got to tell you that we are partnered with BetMGM this year. We're using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the next 2 weeks of the tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the code FIELD and you get a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money. This is what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app, sign up, and use the bonus code FIELD. Deposit $10, place your first wager on any game, and you get $1,500, up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure that you use that code FIELD when you sign up. All right, gentlemen, here's how we're going to end it. We're going to make updated Final Four and national championship predictions. These are presented by our partners over at Vaulted. I was debating whether or not we should actually do this segment presented by Vaulted because Paul Staubby over at Vaulted is a horrible influence. And
we do whatever Paul wants us to do. That's what we do. We do whatever Paul wants us to do. Paul's the best. I had a great time.
I'll tell you this much. If you enjoy Field of 68 content, what we need to do is a Field of 68 blackjack table live stream because I've never seen someone as electric as Paul Staubby at a blackjack table.
He was awesome.
Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, he was great. You want to talk about somebody holding court? My man, Paul. That dude, that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I won $425. I was fired up.
All right, Fanta, give me your Final Four picks updated and your national champion updated if we have anything here.
Well, my Final Four originally was UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Tennessee. But I think Tennessee is not going to make the Final Four. I believe that the Purdue Boilermakers are going to make the Final Four. I think this is their time. I think that Zach Edey is playing, obviously, on a generational dominant level. I think this team is so hungry. What they did to Utah State, I don't want to hear about how the Mountain West had a bad tournament. We all know that they did. It wasn't a good NCAA tournament. The Mountain West had a great season, though. Okay, yes, exactly. The kind of season that you had doesn't always get paid off in the NCAA tournament. And some of the
can I push back real quick on that? They've won 4 games in the NCAA tournament. They have a team in the Sweet 16, despite not having any teams
All
ranked
right.
as the top 4 seeds. And they had 2 teams make it to win a game in the tournament, despite only having 2 teams that were ranked above a 9 seed. So, yes, they did not get like 14. They haven't had an ACC kind of a weekend, but I think that they've been above what the expectation was based off of their seeding.
Yes, I would have liked to see one other team make the Sweet 16, but that's neither here nor there. We love the Mountain West, and I know we do a great job covering them, and they had a great year. I'm sure that those people in the conference office wish that they were going to one other site this weekend. I mean, I'm assuring you, that's what they're looking at right now. I'm sure.
Yes.
These, to all these people who are like, well, commissioners should be screaming and yelling, and what's that going to do? What's that going to do? Ralph Russo, who covers college basketball for the Associated Press. I'm sure, Rob, you know Ralph a little bit.
Yes.
Ralph brought up such a great point because at the Barclays Center on Sunday, Val Ackerman did a media availability. And at one point, someone was like, Val, why aren't you yelling? And she said, we agree to this process. She goes, I agree to this process. We could be on the other side of this next year. She goes, I'm confident in saying we won't get 3 teams next year. We'll get more. She goes, we'll revisit this. We'll circle back to what we did wrong, and we'll move forward. And Ralph brought up a great point because a lot of the New York press, some of our buddies who like to get into extremes because they're in New York, were like, why isn't she yelling? Why is she going crazy? She should be going nuts. She should be yelling. Ralph goes, here's the deal. He goes, I'm very close to college football. He said, we are in a world right now where everyone is yelling and screaming, like the Florida State situation.
Yes.
And he said, I'm not at all sitting here and saying what you should do. But he said, if every single person yells, remember, you originally agreed that this would be the process that they would go about. So he said, you're defeating your own process when you go crazy and yell and scream. And at the end of the day, where does it really get you? What does it really do? Seriously. But back to Purdue. Utah State was a good team.
Yes.
Purdue made them look like a JV team. I think that it's destiny. We talked about it all year. We've been talking for 11 months about this being destiny for Purdue. I believe destiny comes true.
They win the national title?
They get to the Final Four.
And then
Final Four. I said 12 months ago and got pushback that it was a Final Four bust season for Purdue. And
it is.
Yes, but in the moment when Edey came back, people were like, that's a lot to put on their plate. It is. It always was. They're going to make it. I think they're going to make this Final Four. Do you, Terrence?
I've run into a conundrum here, gentlemen.
Oh.
Because I picked Arizona to make the Final Four initially. And now they're playing my Tigers. I think just because I picked it first and all those teams are still alive, I think I'm going to stick with it. I had Arizona, Purdue, Duke, and UConn. I think UConn and Purdue play in the finals.
So yours, Tio, is where I tend to be landing right now. I think UConn gets there. All due respect to Illinois, I think UConn gets there fairly easily. I think Duke, I'm just kind of rolling with the upset there. I'm rolling with the hot hand, but I think that they have a very real chance. The hardest one for me to kind of decide is like Creighton-Purdue matchup in the Elite Eight, and then the Arizona-North Carolina matchup in the Elite Eight. I think both of those are going to be very difficult. I think that Creighton is the one team that is perfectly built to be able to beat Purdue because of the way that they can blow up actions, because of the way that they're able to funnel people to offensively, people to Ryan Kalkbrenner in the paint, and because Ryan Kalkbrenner is the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and doesn't foul, right? I think that is if you're Purdue, that is the team that you don't want to see. They shouldn't look past Gonzaga, and like Tennessee's really good because Dalton Connect can win any game by himself. But I think that Creighton is the team that's really built to take them down. And then Arizona, North Carolina, I think North Carolina is clearly the best team left in that region. And I also think that if Caleb Love is going up against North Carolina, if that game happens, there's only 2 possible outcomes there, right? Either Caleb Love scores 27 points in both halves and looks like the second coming of Michael Jordan, and we start having this conversation. Who is the next great player in the NBA? Is it Anthony Edwards? Is it Jason Tatum? Is it Caleb Love? I think he has that level of performance. Or He tries to and shoots 2 for 83. Right? No one else on Arizona gets a single shot. He takes every single shot, and they score 11 points in the entire game. There's no in between. He's either going to be unbelievable or he's going to be atrocious if that game happens. And I tend to think like Caleb Love would be the kind of guy that will go unbelievable. So I will go UConn over Arizona. I'm going to go Purdue over Duke, and UConn against Purdue in the national title game, which is the matchup that I think we all have wanted for a long time now. So I would love to see Purdue get that validation as well. I know we're not supposed to root for stuff, right? But like, I'm kind of rooting for Matt Painter and Zach Edey to get there as well. Like, I love McDermott, love Creighton. Gonzaga's an awesome story. I'd love to see. I want to see all 4 of those teams make it, but like, it's very hard not to be a little bit romantic about having Zach Edey get a chance to play in the Final Four. Does that make is that?
No.
I just, after everything that happened last year, it'd be nice to be able to see that.
I love Painter right now. I love Matt Painter right now. I love him just shutting people down. The whole thing about
respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully.
He did it respectfully. Reporter, he's a gentleman.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But the thing about to people who just think Edey's tall, that they should just stop covering basketball. It's so true. I mean, we have some people in this sport, some people who do what I use someone's metrics, a metric system here. And one of the people that does a metric system thinks that he's just a big guy. Like, come on, man. What are you watching? Be better than that. Don't let your agendas produce everything that you think now. Like, it's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to me.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this, though. This could be the best Sweet 16 we've had in years.
It's slow. Like, here's and we can wrap it on this. Every single one of these games is like imminently watchable, right? Like, there were games in last year's Sweet 16 where you kind of like, all right, well, I understand that this game has to be played, but like, how do I really get excited about watching FAU and Tennessee? Like, is that going to really, that doesn't exactly get the juices flowing. You know what I mean? But this year, I think every single one of these games is going to be really, really fun to watch. There's a reason why the first weekend of the tournament broke records in terms of viewership. And I know that there are reporters out there that are trying to talk about how there's no storylines in college basketball that cut through the noise, how this has been the dullest year and a boring year in the sport, how there's nothing to watch and nothing to root for. Well, you know what? I hope you click off that TV.
Yeah, don't watch then. What is up with people? What is up with people? Go watch election coverage. Get off our lawn.
Look,
get off our lawn.
Yeah. You know what? You want to be mad? You want to be mad about college basketball? Go watch 2 old men go up against each other in a race to November. Forget you.
Go home.
Look, I understand if college basketball is not your thing all year long, right? And I respect that. There are people that enjoy the NBA more. There are people that enjoy hockey more. There are people that enjoy. I'm not going to tell you what sport to love, right? But I am going to tell you that
get off our lawn.
Did you guys know that? Hey, Rob. Thursday night at the Sweet 16, my Guardians play at 10:10, right around the time that Game 2 begins. Did you know baseball starts Thursday? You got the Phillies cap on, man. They're gonna do it.
It's that. Hey, look, I'll tell you what. Starting Thursday is late because we've been doing 2-a-days for my son's 8U travel team for like 2 weeks now.
Hey, can I make a toast of the day?
Yes.
All right. So my toast of the day goes to my dog Buster, who is getting his boys taken off tomorrow.
Oh.
I looked at him dead in the eye. I said, I thought they'd only get one of us, son. I thought they'd only get one of us. They're getting both of us. She's getting both of us.
Well, Rob, then tomorrow,
my wife carries mine around in her purse.
Well, Rob, tomorrow Buster will be experiencing pain from both ends.
End it.
Oh man, this is the DTF podcast. If you're still listening, rate, review, subscribe, hit that like button. Do those things that will make us happy as podcasters. We'll see you guys again